I went to check on my basil at the store today, and I had sold 2 of the bunches and 2 of the bags, 3-ounce bags. But then I took a look at these bunches, and they are turning black in the center and on the leaves. And I think that's just simply because they're just too wet right now. We haven't had a lot of sun, and so the leaves aren't drying out. Also, some of the leaves are kind of translucent. What's interesting is usually the bunches, as long as you clip the ends and put them in water, they will last for weeks, like up to a month. They will even actually start rooting. But these didn't last even a couple of days. And what's ironic is that the 3-ounce bags in the refrigerator are actually still looking pretty good. So this is how I do my basil bunches. I'm going to use these ugly ones as an example, the ones I just pulled from the store. I cut down 2 nodes normally. I hold it here between the 2 nodes, and I just kind of line them up like this and like that. And then I gently hold them, and I wrap the rubber band around twice, loosely like this, trying not to squash any of the leaves. And then they hold together, because if you were to wrap them around the bottom, what usually happens, to me anyway, is you have to do it really tight, and then if somebody were to kind of lift up a basil and say, oh no, I don't really want that, then sometimes they kind of just fall apart really easily. The one advantage to having basil bunches is that typically they last for a really long time. You know, you can take scissors, cut the bottoms just like a bunch of flowers, put them in water, you know, then you'll want to change the water. So if a person wants to just take a couple of leaves and put it in a sandwich or whatever, you know, they're not looking to make pesto or something like that, it's really nice. You just put it on your kitchen counter, room temperature, and it keeps really well. So that's the advantage of a bunch. But if you are looking to do something more like pesto or whatever, you use a lot more basil, then getting I make them available in bags too. This is probably like more like 6 ounces, but I do like 3-ounce bags, and I've just been putting them in these like what do you call them, bread bags or something like that. It's not the best thing, it's just plastic. I'd love to do something more like cellulose or whatever, but this is what I was able to just grab at the store. And then I just take the top here and I use the twist ties and just put it around the top, and then I'll put a little price label on each individual bag. So yeah, the advantage of this is that it's probably a better price per ounce, and if you want a lot, then it doesn't make sense to grab a little bunch. For the basil bunches, I started using like this fishing tackle type of container, just because it allows each basil bunch to go into a separate container. It holds the leaves up so that they don't get stuck in the water, because that's the worst thing to have happen. But it allows the stems to get down into the water. It's still not kind of a perfect solution. I really do need to kind of figure out something better, because they do tend to still kind of tip over, and sometimes the stems pull out of each of those sections, and then they'll get wilty because they're not getting enough water. When I was harvesting basil Monday night for the store and restaurant, it was getting so thick in here that I just went crazy cutting it back. I left this patch at the very end with some bigger plants, because what I like to do is Tuesday morning cut the bunches. I cut the plants, take them directly down to the store, clip the stems, and then put them in water there. And so these sticks are to mark where I've had slug issues, and then I can come down at night and check, and it really helps me find the slugs. One thing I can say is that, you know, you don't really want to sell plants that have a lot of pest damage. You know, maybe one little hole here and there, no biggie, but you yeah, you want to sell kind of clean plants. And so what I might do, if the whole plant looks fine except for that one leaf, I'll just pluck that off and use it. But that's, you know, really important to remember. Um, it's been overcast and raining a lot, and so it's like 70 degrees in here in the greenhouse, and I'm getting a ton of condensation on the inside of this shrink. And it's really humid in here, so the leaves of the basil have actually been really wet, although they've kind of dried out. I bagged them up wet like that, which is just not a good thing to do. So I've got to figure that out. So in this other raised bed, I've got these two sections that I need to put these tie rods in to hold the bed together. And then I can fill the rest of those sections up with soil and get the last of these little guys transplanted here. It was interesting, as cool as it's been. It seemed like I was getting some additional germination. In fact, I had more, except for I found a slug in here. Look at this little guy right here coming up. It's almost like it didn't like to germinate in the hotter weather that we were having. So yeah, I found a slug in this place too. Okay, I got everything smoothed out, and I've got transplants here. I'm going to do 8-inch separation between each plant rather than 6-inch spacing, because I think that's part of my everything kind of staying wet and stuff like that problem, that there's just not enough airflow. This year I put that seaweed in, that rotted seaweed, pretty heavy in first, and then this kind of top layer like I did here. And boy, everything grew a lot bigger. I have drip watering set up this time instead of I was just hand watering the basil last year. I think that my basil last year was like always like in a drought situation. You know, I can't really put a fan in because I don't have any electricity out here at this point. It was really nice to see. I went into the restaurant, and she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't use all the basil that I had before, and look at it. She went to the refrigerator, look at this. She says it's still green. And so that's really cool to have local basil. But you know, the other thing is too, this is the first time of the season that I've been selling the basil. And so like a lot of people don't even really know about it, even though I've done just a little bit of advertising on Facebook at this point. But you know, it takes a long time for people to kind of know that something's available. I need to be better at not having everything come on all at once like this. We got that nice weather and everything just went pow. It was kind of a little bit, took me by surprise. But if I had done a succession, I realize now I could actually do half a bed succession, and I think I would have had plenty of basil for the restaurant and store. And then I could have done another half, and then another half, and another half. And so if I don't have so many logistical problems, like, oh my gosh, I'm still moving the greenhouse around, and I'm still having to fill raised beds in, then I think I can be better about, and then my soil for starts was crappy, and so the things didn't germinate. And then I had a slug problem with eating my starts. I mean, oh my gosh. But if I had everything under control, then I could get things started on time, get it planted, not plant too much, and then I wouldn't have a surplus like I did this time. Hey, I just came to check on the basil. So it is Friday evening, and I just got back from the store. I ended up selling 7 of the 8 3-ounce bags of basil, which was really awesome. And I'm thinking that if I hadn't had to pull those cruddy looking bunches of basil, I probably would have sold more of those too. So I think I'm going to harvest about the same amount maybe for next week. The only thing is that we are kind of doing last minute plans to go up the Stickeen River through Canada to telegraph, because our friends kind of have a limited window from when they can do that trip. And so that means that I ended up talking to the person who's filling in for the store owner, and I'm going to harvest on Sunday, and she's going to be able to meet me. And so then when we take off on Monday, I'll have that stuff at the store already.